Hello and welcome to Regent Park, the past, the present, and the future. My name is Titilola and I will be hosting this series. This show discusses the history of the Regent Park area. We will be sharing stories from lived experiences by former and present Regent Parkers. Join me as we learn about the old and new Regent Park. Do not miss it. Welcome to Regent Park, the past, the present, and the future. My name is Titilola, and I'm your host for today. The aim of this show is to discuss the changing nature of Regent Park. Joining me today on the show is our lovely guest, Foz Ashkir. You're welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you.
You look really beautiful, I must say.
Oh, it's amazing coming from a beautiful woman as well.
Oh God, thank
you.
you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's get to it quickly. I am aware that you lived in the Regent Park area for quite a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Can you tell us more about that?
I've lived through Regent Park for about 16 years. I had my children in Regent Park, raised my children in Regent Park, so it's an amazing, very amazing neighborhood.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Lovely. So what were the things that, made it great for you living there all those times with, all that time with, okay, sorry. So tell me, what were the things that made it so great living there with your family for that long?
When I moved into Regent Park, February of 1996, everyone was so negative and talking about a negativity of Regent Park. But a young person in her early 20s and with a child, so it was very scary at the beginning. But as my kids started school in the neighborhood, and I've started working. The first place actually I worked is Focus, Regent Park Focus. It used to be at 600 Dundas, at the basement. So my daughter was a month old when I started working at Focus and worked with Adonis. So it was an amazing experience. And I started getting involved more in the community, and some of the experiences that I've had getting involved in the community, working with housing, being part of the tenant coordinating groups with the security and safety with housing, being part of the schools where my children attended. That kind of brought a lot of experiences, and that's what made it amazing.
Right.
Yeah, to have the opportunity to be able to be taking part in those, in
those activities.
Correct.
Yes. I love the idea of living in a neighborhood like that. It's really interesting. And so I was thinking, I've learned about some of the issues that residents of the Regent Park area faced. Some of the activities, the good, the bad. You've mentioned some of the good and the ugly. So would you like to tell us more about everything about your experience, more about, the things that really concerned the residents of the area?
So, as you said, everywhere there's good, bad, and the ugly.
That's right.
And some of the things that people truly were very concerned about at that time was safety, back in those early days, in the late 90s, early 2000. And to be honest, at the same time, the community Regent Park is like a small village where everyone knows everyone else. And that's what makes it very close to the folks. So if you don't know a person, you'll know their faces a number of times, and you pass them on the street and you say hi, and they'll say hi right back at you. The concerns would be like children getting into trouble, old buildings, and so the residents of Regent Park have always had the opportunity to take part in certain things. And the whole, the Revite started with residents of Regent Park. So they were tired of those old buildings and they wanted something to be done about it. And years later, you see the amazing buildings.
Talking about the old buildings, I would like, for you to tell me more about how these buildings were, because I mean, it's really nice for you to have brought that up. I would like to know more. What was it about the old buildings that people complained about?
So the buildings that on North Regent Park that are there now, those are the old buildings, and they were the second revive, I believe.
Right.
And so the Regent Park had no exits. Like you go into a neighborhood or area and they're all blocked and closed.
Right.
So you would have to, if you're driving, you would have to go all the way around to be able to go into certain streets. So same way that we have Sackville Street all the way open to River down to Girard, we did not have that before. Same goes for Oak Street, and many streets are like that. The buildings themselves, some areas were really rotten and pretty bad shape. Other areas were okay. So some of the buildings would not have lighting on the outside, for example. It would be dark outside.
Right.
And so as part of the Security and Safety Committee with housing, we would go out and audit. And if I see something that's dark, I would point out, say, this area is dark, the lightings are out, they need to be fixed. And they were really great following up and making that happen. If the trees needed to be trimmed, though that was also a part of the things that we've brought it up in the meetings, and they were dealt with. With the buildings themselves, some of them were built differently. For example, the old buildings, I don't know if you've ever seen them,
Yes.
Belevins and White Sites, they were built like a maze, and it was just a bit confusing for folks, and even fixing was confusing at times. So if there was a flood, they would have to go through a number of buildings, number of units to figure out where that flood was coming from. So some of those things, and of course the mice and the cockroaches and all of the other wonderful insects that we have.
Did you have any of those experiences?
We did, yes, we did.
Wow.
But you always have to fight the bed bugs. Like, it's just, I mean, you have neighbors, you have folks, they come, right? They come. So it's, you get to learn along the way how to advocate for yourself, how to advocate for others, and how to maintain a proper living condition.
So, I mean, you sound like you were really excited about the revamping of the area, but how did you feel when you had to leave, when you had to relocate from the area?
Yeah, I relocated 2014, end of 2014. Right now I'm not in Regent Park, but I work in Regent.
Okay.
And so it was heartbreaking. My children didn't like it. Both of them, my son was going to high school. My daughter was starting college at the time when we moved. And so they did not like it. They loved the neighborhood where they knew everyone, where, they had people that would say hello to them, whether they work, live, or, play, as we say in Regent. So, that was one of the things. Versus where we are living right now, it does not have the feel of a community. Regent Park, when you're in Regent, you feel part of the family. You feel that you are a member of this community. But where I'm at, we just literally go there to sleep and wake up and go to work next day, right? So it's much different, and it really isn't any neighborhood that I've ever lived in or seen in my life.
Wow. Yeah, you must have really missed that.
Oh, I do. I mean, the great thing is I'm here every day for work, but still,
And it's nice to be back here at Focus.
Oh, yes, it's interesting. I love Focus. As I mentioned earlier, I started here. My daughter been part of the youth in Regent Park Focus. She did an articles, and my son is actually now part of Focus. He comes in once in a while, and he loves being here. So it's an amazing place.
And we must thank you for your contribution.
Oh, thank you so
much.
much.
And that of your kids as well.
Thank you. It's a privilege of having the opportunity to be able to do that.
Yeah. Okay. So I'd like to go back a bit about, when you talked about safety in the neighborhood, and what you thought about living in the area at the time with regards to safety and, some of the activities that was going on. Would you think it was over-exaggerated by the media? Because from what I have studied in the old Regent Park, it was mostly the negative activities that were reported in the area. You lived in the area, you have raised your children in the area. What would you say about that? Do you think it was over-exaggerated?
I do believe it was exaggerated. Not saying we're the perfect neighborhood. Personally, never really have came across any negativity into that aspect.
Okay.
I have never had a moment where I had to actually fear for my life and say, oh my God, but the concerns are always there. The young people are always the ones that parents and family members are concerned about.
Right.
And just like any other neighborhood, yes, do they get into trouble here and there? Yes, they do. But what are those? To be honest, I'm not able to describe it because I've never really experienced it in a first hand. Yes, I have taken part in preparing funerals and supporting families during funerals. But those are young people that I've known as well. Like they were from the community. They were, most of them either were brought up or born in their neighborhood. But one thing I can tell you is that majority of the young people have a great respect for folks in this neighborhood. So even if they were messing about, you don't really get to see it.
Right.
So I cannot honestly say, but yes, there are A, B, C going on in the neighborhood. But what I could say is that, yeah, media does exaggerate the negativity of Regent Park. Meanwhile, it's a one neighborhood that residents would come out to support one another when there's the smallest thing that happens, right? So that's what my experiences are, being there for community members, supporting one another, whether it is to celebrate or whether it is a funeral, or whether a young person ends up in prison, right? To be there, to be the support system in place for them. So that, I can greatly talk about it, but what the media really sees and talks about, I've never came across of that.
Right. Thank you so much, Foz, for coming here today. It was lovely to share your experience with living in the Regent Park area. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Greatly appreciate it.
You're most welcome. Thank you for tuning in today to Regent Park, the past, the present, and the future. I remain your host, Titilola. Until next time, bye-bye.